I've tried to live my life in a way that, and then, during the divorce, they printed fucking horrible lies. Horrible, mean.
Like what?
Ben Affleck did not sit down with GQ to attack Jennifer Lopez. On March 25th, 2025, he finally put words to what fans had been sensing for months. Their breakup was not one explosive scandal, but a quieter mismatch between two people living under impossible attention. He said there was no scandal, no soap opera, no intrigue, yet admitted the truth was harder to explain. So, what was he really saying about Jennifer? The narrative about his second divorce usually paints Ben Affleck as a victim of sudden circumstance, but the primary source reveals he knew exactly what he was getting into from day one. When his GQ cover story dropped on March 25th, 2025, Affleck finally addressed the public fascination with his relationship with Jennifer Lopez. He didn't offer a dramatic confession or point fingers. Instead, he used a metaphor that explained the structural failure of the marriage. According to the interview published by CNN, Affleck stated that you don't marry a ship captain and then say you don't like going out in the water, adding that you have to own what you knew going into any relationship. In plain English, he admitted that her massive celebrity status wasn't something that blindsided him. He chose it. The admission shows a deep level of self-awareness that the tabloids completely ignored. Affleck was acknowledging the core friction of his marriage. He prefers a quiet, private life, while Lopez operates a global entertainment empire. He knew the terms of engagement before they ever walked down the aisle in Las Vegas. He understood that her world came with paparazzi, constant media scrutiny, and a relentless public spotlight. If you knew your partner's world was a storm, would you still sign up for the voyage? Affleck did, but the uncomfortable truth he finally admitted is that entering a situation with your eyes wide open doesn't mean you can survive the environment long term. He knew the cost of her fame, but eventually found the water too deep to tread. This brings us to the actual mechanics of how their partnership dissolved. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow realization that knowing the cost of something is very different from actually paying it day after day. Affleck's ship captain metaphor proves that the split wasn't fueled by a secret betrayal or a sudden dramatic blowout. It was a calculated realization that two people can love each other deeply, while being entirely incompatible in how they navigate the world. He tried to adapt to the open water, but his natural disposition always pulled him back toward dry land. We often think of celebrity breakups as chaotic storms of vanity, but this was a quiet capitulation to reality. Affleck explicitly stated that there was no soap opera, which means the real drama was entirely internal. It was the exhaustion of a man trying to sustain an ecosystem that fundamentally drained him. He didn't blame Lopez for being the captain. He blamed himself for thinking he could handle the voyage. The entire interview reads less like an expose and more like a post-mortem on expectations. This realization directly shatters the romantic illusion that pure intention can outlast a constant media siege. Love might spark in private, but a marriage must survive out in the open, and the pressure proved fatal. By stepping back, he chose sanity over the endless production of being a celebrity couple. But the admission about his temperament is only half the story. The timeline of the split suggests this revelation didn't happen overnight. In fact, the specific date Jennifer Lopez chose to end it in court carries a message that Ben had to admit was the ultimate turning point. What was the significance of August 20th? The most brutal admission in the Jennifer saga wasn't spoken in an interview. It was written on a court filing dated August 20th. When Jennifer Lopez walked into the Los Angeles County Superior Court to end her marriage to Ben Affleck, the paperwork she submitted carried an undeniable message. According to a confirmed report by Variety, Lopez filed for divorce on August 20th, 2024, which happened to be the exact 2-year anniversary of their lavish, traditional wedding ceremony in Georgia. This wasn't a random Tuesday selected by a legal assistant. The choice of date served as a calculated public admission that the Hollywood fairy tale had officially collapsed into a permanent exit strategy. To understand how deliberate this timeline was, you have to look at the paperwork itself. The court documents list their official separation date as April 26, 2024. That means the relationship had already been legally dead for nearly 4 months before anyone filed a single document. Lopez sat on that information all summer, letting the media speculate until the calendar hit the exact date of their anniversary. By doing that, she turned a standard legal filing into a definitive statement. Do you think filing for divorce on your wedding anniversary is a coincidence or a final statement? It felt like the final curtain call on a production that had run out of steam. The contrast between their beginning and their end makes this choice even more stark. According to Clark County records published by NBC News, the couple originally eloped in a fast, hopeful Las Vegas ceremony on July 16, 2022. That initial midnight run was spontaneous and intimate, but the Georgia ceremony a month later was the grand public performance. By targeting the anniversary of that second wedding, Lopez essentially dismantled the public myth of their reunion. Adding to the tension, the court records revealed there was no prenuptial agreement in place. Without a prenup, every single dollar earned during their short marriage, from his production company deals to her massive brand partnerships, was suddenly subject to division. Leaving the financial stakes unprotected proves that they both genuinely believed the second chance narrative when they started. They went all in, skipping the safety nets that most Hollywood couples rely on. But when the reality of their incompatibility set in, the exit was handled with absolute precision. The anniversary filing didn't just ask a judge for a dissolution. It told the public that the dream of Jennifer 2.0 was completely over. It was a cold, calculated sign-off that mirrored the exact scale of their highly publicized romance. This legal maneuvering was the ultimate acknowledgement that nostalgia cannot fix the foundational cracks of adulthood. The romantic idea that love conquers all dissolved under the weight of daily logistics and conflicting lifestyles. By choosing that specific date, she reclaimed the narrative, ensuring the anniversary would no longer stand as a symbol of their reunion, but rather as the day the illusion ended for good. Ben's ship captain admission explains his side, but he wasn't the first one to break. 5 months before he sat down with GQ, Jennifer Lopez gave a raw account of what happens when that ship finally sinks. When she said her whole world exploded, she wasn't just talking about a breakup, she was admitting something much darker. Months before Ben spoke to GQ, Jennifer Lopez had already admitted that the split didn't just hurt, it destroyed her sense of reality. When her profile in Interview magazine dropped on October 9th, 2024, the public finally saw the collateral damage of the breakup from the person who lived it. Speaking directly to comedian Nikki Glazer, Lopez bypassed the usual public relations filters to deliver a remarkably raw confession. According to a detailed report by Today, Lopez explicitly stated that her whole world exploded during the summer of her separation, describing the entire experience as probably the hardest time in her life. This wasn't a calculated corporate press release. It was a visceral admission that the sudden death of her marriage had completely shaken her foundation. This public reckoning provides the necessary context for the ship captain metaphor that Ben would deploy months later. While Affleck eventually framed the split as a logical realization about incompatible lifestyles, Lopez was the one left navigating the immediate blast radius. She was forced to confront the harsh reality of the public failure while the media analyzed every single detail of her personal life. In the interview, she explained how the collapse of the relationship forced her into a period of intense, solitary reflection. The pop icon admitted she realized she doesn't need someone else to be happy, marking a massive psychological pivot. She explicitly told Glazer that she was not looking for anybody, signaling a complete shutdown of her romantic life in favor of self-preservation. The contrast between their public admissions highlights the deep emotional disparity in how they processed the divorce. Lopez admitted the emotional devastation first, forcing Ben to eventually address his role in that explosion when he finally spoke to the press. By the time Affleck sat down with his interviewers to explain his discomfort with the open water of her celebrity lifestyle, Lopez had already done the heavy emotional lifting required to rebuild her life. She had already processed the grief, faced the public embarrassment, and come out the other side with a newfound sense of independence. Is it possible to find yourself only after the person you thought was the one admits they can't handle your world? Lopez proved that it absolutely is, turning a public tragedy into a personal reclamation. This timeline shatters the tabloid myth that the couple was locked in a bitter, vindictive war of words. Instead, it reveals two adults processing a monumental failure at entirely different speeds. Lopez felt the immediate, catastrophic shockwaves of the separation in the summer and fall, while Affleck needed the distance of a new calendar year to articulate his role in the breakdown. Her admission was about survival and rediscovering her individual identity, while his admission was about recognizing his personal limits. They were two different interpretations of the exact same tragedy. The true tragedy of Jennifer 2.0 is that the very thing that brought them back together, the grand cinematic scale of their romance, is exactly what made the fallout so devastating for her. When you build a relationship in front of the entire world, the collapse happens in front of the entire world too. Lopez had to learn the hard way that a second chance doesn't guarantee a different ending if the fundamental architecture of the relationship remains unchanged. So she felt the explosion in October, and he admitted he couldn't handle the water in March. It sounds like a bridge was burned forever, but just weeks after his GQ admission, Ben Affleck appeared in public and said something that completely flipped the betrayal narrative on its head. Was it a lie or a new kind of admission? Just 3 weeks after admitting he couldn't handle being married to a ship captain, Ben Affleck stood on a red carpet and admitted she was still spectacular. The public expected a tense standoff or cold silence when the actor finally stepped out for his first major industry event post-interview. Instead, during the promotional run for The Accountant 2 premiere in April 2025, Affleck completely caught the media off guard. According to a red carpet report published by Yahoo Entertainment, Affleck shifted away from the legal logistics and explicitly stated that Jennifer Lopez is spectacular, adding that she is great to his kids and maintains a great ongoing relationship with them. This sudden warmth wasn't a contradiction of his previous statements. It was the missing piece of the puzzle. This red carpet praise highlights the complex reality behind their high-profile separation. Affleck wasn't admitting that he hated his ex-wife, nor was he backtracking on the structural issues that tore them apart. He was admitting that he loves the person, but simply cannot handle the larger-than-life persona that surrounds her. The event itself served as a visual testament to this delicate balance, as all 5 children from their blended family were present to support the project. By showing up together, the family proved that the divorce hadn't shattered their personal bonds. This red carpet narrative effectively flipped the script on the standard Hollywood postmortem. By choosing respect over recrimination, he proved that a failed marriage does not require the total destruction of a family ecosystem. It requires maturity, a strict enforcement of boundaries, and a total refusal to provide tabloids with fresh ammunition. Affleck's final admission is that he can admire the spectacle of J.Lo as long as he isn't the one caught in the middle of it. The distinction he made between Lopez, the stepmother, and Lopez, the global superstar, changes the entire narrative of their split. It moves the conversation away from the standard tabloid tropes of betrayal and bitterness, reframing the dynamic into something far more mature. Can you truly call an ex spectacular after admitting you couldn't survive a life with them? Affleck proved that you can, provided you have the self-awareness to separate the individual from the environment they inhabit. He recognized her impact on his children's lives as something entirely distinct from the marital friction that drove them to Los Angeles County Superior Court. The premiere quote was a deliberate effort to protect that family unit from the ongoing media circus. This public display of grace effectively redefines what a successful Hollywood ending looks like. The marriage failed, but the transition into a functional, protective co-parenting dynamic succeeded. It showed an actor who had finally found his footing after months of intense public scrutiny, standing firm in his respect for his former partner while maintaining his own boundaries. He didn't need to diminish her to justify walking away from the relationship. By praising her publicly while holding his ground on the separation, Affleck managed to disarm the clickbait machine entirely. He took the teeth out of the rumors by refusing to play the villain or cast her as one. It was a masterclass in modern celebrity damage control, turning what could have been a hostile press junket into a celebration of family resilience. He drew a sharp line between the public marriage and the private family, ensuring the kids remained protected. This public praise seemed like a happy ending, but a final leak to the press revealed why Ben was so quick to be nice. It turns out that the GQ interview wasn't just a talk, it was a strategic exit. Why is Ben Affleck now officially done talking about J.Lo? The most important admission of all is that there will be no more admissions. For over a year, the public watched a relentless media machine dissect every look, every court filing, and every leaked rumor regarding the collapse of Bennifer 2.0. But just as the clickbait industry was gearing up for another season of speculation, a definitive boundary was drawn. According to an industry insider speaking to People magazine and reported by Hola, the actor's extensive GQ profile was specifically designed as a final, permanent sign-off. The source confirmed that the entire story was about clearing the air one last time, and that Affleck is now officially done talking about J.Lo. This wasn't a casual update. It was a calculated closing argument. When you look at the complete evidence staircase of their separation, the strategic logic of this final exit becomes entirely clear. The entire narrative arc reveals two people trying to regain control over a story that threatened to consume them. First, Affleck admitted that he couldn't handle the open water of her immense global spotlight, acknowledging that his temperament wasn't built for that level of exposure. Months later, Lopez admitted to the catastrophic emotional blast radius of that realization, letting the public see that her whole world exploded when the dream fell apart. Finally, both parties used the red carpet to admit to a cordial, protective aftermath, designed entirely to shelter their 5 blended children. Affleck's GQ interview was a calculated final admission designed to close the book on a relationship he admitted he was never built to sustain. This brings us to the most grounding human element of the entire saga. The insider source made it clear that while Affleck is stepping away from the microphone, he is not proud that their marriage didn't work out. There is no triumph or vindication in his silence. It is a quiet admission of defeat in the battle against the paparazzi and the impossible logistics of maintaining a normal relationship inside a media fishbowl. Instead of fighting a losing battle against the public narrative, he has chosen to channel his energy elsewhere, opting to completely focus on his kids and work. Is clearing the air one last time ever really the end of the story in Hollywood? In terms of official commentary, Affleck has made sure that it is. This final pivot effectively starves the tabloid ecosystem of the fuel it needs to keep running. By stating his piece clearly, validating his ex-wife's character, and then closing the door firmly behind him, he leaves no room for further spin or manufactured controversy. The silence that follows isn't angry, it is simply absolute. It is the action of a man who realized that the only way to win a game that drains you is to stop playing it altogether. He stepped off the ship, walked away from the water, and finally found the quiet ground he had been looking for all along. Ben Affleck finally admitted he couldn't handle the water, and Jennifer Lopez admitted her world exploded when he left. The record is now complete, and the through line is clear. Ben Affleck finally admitted what we all suspected. He knew the risks of marrying a ship captain like Jennifer Lopez, but couldn't handle the water. From the anniversary filing to the red carpet praise, the admission is that the love was real, but the spotlight was lethal. Was Ben right to walk away, or should he have learned to swim? Tell us which Bennifer moment you think was the real turning point.